Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for the latest edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cooke, and we've got a busy show for you once again this week. We're kicking off our series of interviews with municipal council candidates in Richmond County. So in just a few moments, I'll be speaking to District 5 incumbent Jason MacLean. And we'll also take you to Port Hawkesbury's Granville Street, where Fresh Start peer support is getting going and is doing well under the guidance of President and CEO Michael George. We'll speak to him near the end of the show. But we begin by revisiting the issue of fire services protection for Point Tupper. We've started hearing a lot from our Telile viewers about this issue and about the ongoing battle between the town of Port Hawkesbury and the municipality of Richmond over who should provide fire protection for the community of Point Tupper. So we decided to bring in someone who is really starting to raise his voice on this issue. He is the fire chief for the Port Hawkesbury Volunteer Fire Department, Curtis Doucet. Let's hear what Fire Chief Doucet has to say right now.
Thank you for agreeing to speak with us, Chief Doucet. I wanted to begin by asking for your general reaction towards the disagreements that have arisen between Richmond County and the town of Port Hawkesbury regarding fire service protection for Point Tupper.
I mean, we're very disappointed that the two councils couldn't come to an agreement when it comes to the coverage of Point Tupper. We feel that as the closest fire department, we were able to provide a good coverage for the residents, also in the industries of Point Tupper. Due to the geographical disadvantage to the neighboring department, we feel that it's going to take a little bit longer for them to arrive on scene. Unfortunately, politics don't always see eye to eye, and the fire service sometimes has to suffer a little bit for it.
In defending their decision to go with the Lewisdale and District Volunteer Fire Department for calls from Point Tupper, several Richmond County officials, including Warden Brian Marchand, have suggested that on average the community is responsible for only 2 or 3 fire service calls in a given year. Can you tell me what happens with the Port Hawkesbury Volunteer Fire Department when you do receive a call from a residential or commercial area of Point Tupper?
When it comes to a call in Point Tupper, at the moment, the way it stands, the department of record would be the Lewisdale Volunteer Fire Department. Once they receive the original page to respond to an incident in Point Tupper, they have to proceed to their fire hall and gather their equipment. During this time, we may also get a fire call here in Port Hawkesbury to assist Lewisdale in responding to a call in Point Tupper. Therefore, we arrive here at the fire station, grab our equipment and our vehicles, and head on over. And unfortunately, due to the geographical issue with the original fire department getting the page, it could take quite an amount of time for them to arrive on scene. Where it will take us anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes to arrive on scene and start operating as a fire department. When it comes to taking care of the incident, we feel that we could have the incident taken care of before the original fire department arrives on scene. It could not, depending on the scene and the size of the incident itself.
Earlier this summer, the mayor of Port Hawkesbury, Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, remarked that this is the 3rd time in the past 3 years that Richmond County has changed the fire service provider for Point Tupper. Do you feel that this could create instability in the overall coordinated effort to protect the community from fire and similar issues?
It changes our basic response to any incident when it comes to Point Tupper. If we were the department of record, obviously all of our equipment would roll to an incident in Point Tupper. But as a mutual aid department, we only send 1 vehicle and 6 men to an incident out of our jurisdictions. So therefore, the amount of personnel and available equipment originally arriving on scene could be affected.
You referenced mutual aid responsibilities just a couple of moments ago. Your fire department recently voted to withdraw from the Strait Area Mutual Aid Association. Can you tell us what exactly was behind that decision?
Ultimately, the Strait Area Mutual Aid is an association of 30 departments in one association that have signed on to assist with each other when it comes to fighting fire. Unfortunately, due to this agreement, it forces us to respond to Point Tupper as a mutual aid department, but arriving way before the Department of Record on scene. The department felt that, the County of Richmond was taking advantage of the fire service in Port Hawkesbury to cover a major asset in the County of Richmond. And we had many lengthy discussions over this issue, and feel that the only way to make sure that we were not held as the liable department on an incident in Point Tupper, we had to pull out of the mutual aid agreement. Now, in saying that, in the pulling out of the mutual aid agreement, we did want to make sure that we kept coverage for the residents and the people over the area. So we didn't want to leave the departments without any help at all. Originally, we had planned to leave the Straight Area Mutual Aid Department, Straight Area Mutual Aid Association by September 25th at midnight. But due to not being able to get the proper registrations on the go with the municipalities, and also not having the proper MOUs in place to assist other fire departments, we felt that it was in the best interest of the public to extend the notice to quit from the mutual aid until December 25th.
For the benefit of our viewers, could you describe what geographical areas are covered by the Straight Area Mutual Aid Association?
The Straight Area Mutual Aid covers quite a large distance. I mean, we have many departments in the local area. For example, Port Hastings, Alls Cove, Mulgrave, Harbour Boucher, West Bay Road, Lewisdale, Ayrshire. We cover quite a vast area when it comes to mutual aid. It goes all the way out to St. Peter's, Chapel Island area, also out to Antigonish County, up towards Waikagama area, and also out towards the Judic area as well. So there's quite a vast area, and many departments. As I said before, there's 30 departments in the association. So it was all one big association to help everybody out.
As we wrap things up, can you give us a sense of where we go from here in terms of the discussions over Point Tupper?
We've asked the Mutual Aid Association to take a look at the association memorandum to try to specify exactly which neighboring department would respond to an incident in a different county, or just the incident when it comes to industrial Point Tupper. We're hoping that the association can come to an agreement with the membership of Port Hawkesbury as well, to hopefully all work together, and also for the two councils to work together to try to come up with an agreement to please everybody when it comes to the township, the councils, and the residents of either town and also Point Tupper, to provide the proper fire service that we can all work together and achieve the one main goal.
This week on Telile 24/7, we're going to begin interviewing individual candidates who are running for election in the municipal vote in Richmond County later this month. We're going to begin with someone who served briefly as warden for the County of Richmond during the last council term and is hoping for a second term in District 5 on the northeastern section of the county. His name is Jason MacLean. I got to sit down with him a little earlier this week at the Telile 24/7 desk. Let's hear what he has to say. And we're very pleased to welcome District 5 incumbent Jason MacLean to the Telile studios. He is going to be the first of our candidates' interviews for Richmond Council. Jason, thank you for joining us on Telile 24/7 this week.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you for having me.
It's no trouble at all. So how is this very unusual COVID-19 campaign going for you in District 5?
Very different, obviously, and different for obvious reasons. 4 years ago was my first kick at the can, and you spend the time knocking on doors and speaking to folks and getting to hear what their concerns are and what they have to say in a face-to-face conversation. And you fast forward 4 years in a global pandemic, and it certainly has a different look. So, I have made the choice to not go door to door and not do the traditional style of campaigning. Very much based on the fact of my day job, where I'm exposed to anywhere from 350 to 400 people in the run of a day, and the schools it can be germy places, even though we've done a fantastic job in preparing everything that we possibly can. But Certainly, if there was even the remote possibility that there was an infection in and around the time where I was campaigning, and I thought that there was even the slightest of a chance where somebody may have contracted that, and it could have potentially been related to me, I would have a hard time dealing with that. So I did make that choice to not go door to door and try to take advantage of social media. Certainly a huge thank you to Telile, this being my second opportunity to come down and do some speak and get some messages out there. Just using Facebook, which I haven't really been doing much of in the past, and I'm still working through the kinks on that one. But just finding a different way to get some messages out there, and hoping that that'll be an effective way this time around.
I'd like to ask you about your day job just for a second, because you are the principal at Richmond Education Center and Academy.
Vice principal, actually.
That's it. You're the vice principal this
Yes.
year. Okay, there we are. Well, it's good we got that cleared up.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about what it's been like? Because I'm starting to hear a couple of people saying, well, now we've been through a month of this. It seems to be working. How are things going over at that Whiteside Road school site?
Well, great, actually. We're super proud of the way that the students have adapted and really taken what we asked them to do, and they're doing it. And it was a lot of change. It was a lot of work to create some new schedules and to try to minimize contact time. And the principal, who spent the majority of her summer really doing a lot of work to make sure that things were in place, and we had hopefully everything thought out. So to my surprise, it's been awesome. It's been a lot of positive things. We made a lot of change, as I mentioned, but we're super proud of the way that everything has been going so far, and we really hope that it's going to continue.
I'm glad to hear that. So let's get back to the campaign just for a moment. I'm curious because this is actually not only my first chance to ask you about the 2020 campaign, it's my first chance to ask you about the 2016 campaign as well.
Yep.
And you've compared and contrasted just the idea of being able to get out and knock on doors. But I was curious as to what motivated you to run the first time around, and has that motivation changed this time around now that you have served a term on council? Can you compare the two campaigns?
Sure. In 2016, when I decided to run, it was on the heels of a lot of negative press and a lot of things that were happening within Richmond County where we were on the news for a lot of the wrong reasons. And I thought that maybe I could offer some stability and just some good decision making around the table if I happen to be successful in getting in there. I've always been an easygoing, approachable person who operates under the guidelines of empathy and really, a team player. And so I thought in 2016, I'll give it a shot and see how it goes, and it worked out.
You defeated a sitting councillor, Gail Johnson. Was that a surprise for you?
It was, because it was a very, very tight race. And I know that, oftentimes when someone takes their first crack at council, and especially against an incumbent, that, the success rate is not always that high. But I was successful, and it's been an interesting 4 years for sure.
Interesting in many ways. We'll get to a little more on that in a second. So what is your motivation to run for re-election this time? What made you want to try for a second term?
Well, oddly enough, it's the same thing. I promoted when I ran in 2016 that a vote for Jason MacLean was a vote for positive change. And I wish that I could say that there's been a lot of positive change around the last 4 years, but I can't say that. And I do think it's time for some necessary changes around the council table, and I really hope to get back in and to be a part of that change. But my message 4 years later is exactly the same thing. I want to be a part of positive change, and I really hope to be able to represent the folks of District 5 for another 4 years.
How is that message going over with the folks you have been able to talk with in this very unusual pandemic campaign? What are people saying to you as you speak to them?
People are ready for change, and people want, the conversations that I'm having is that there continues to be things that people are not happy about as far as county council. And, we get elected by the people, and I think that people just feel like council hasn't had their back over the last little while. And I do think that people are ready for change. I'm ready for change as somebody who has been sitting around the table. And I'm actually banking on it, because I did have a difficult last 4 years for much of it. And if I really thought that there wouldn't be changes around the table, I would not have reoffered this time around.
I want to reference some of the difficulties that you have. Midway through this council term, you were chosen as the county warden, but in the spring of 2019, in April, you did something I've never seen any sitting warden do in this county, and you stepped down from your post, citing that you didn't feel that you could work with the council around you, and that you would be more comfortable with being an individual councillor trying to hold their feet to the fire. And this came just a week after 3 members of the 5-member council got together to vote to terminate the contract of the former CAO for the county, Kent McIntyre, escorted him to his office, made him turn in his keys, and that was that at the end of the night. Can you tell me, do you regret having stepped down as warden now, seeing how things have unfolded over the last year and a half? Do you feel that you made the right decision at that point?
Absolutely. I stand by that decision still to this day 100%. It was a complete shock when it happened, and I couldn't believe that somebody was being treated that way. I certainly had a great amount of respect for the job that Mr. McIntyre was doing for the county at that time, and a large part of me, taking an interest in the warden's role was to be working on very closely with CAO McIntyre at that time. And to see how that man was treated by the majority of a council was an eye-opener. And to see the way that council turned on a dime and to see the things that had been happening, we were a fast-sinking ship. And I thought it best that, when you're playing the role as warden and playing the role as a spokesperson for council, I was no longer interested in being the spokesperson for such bad decisions. And I was no longer interested in not being someone who is supposed to speak to motions or make motions or second motions. And it was going downhill in a bad way fast. And it was a difficult decision, and it was a time when I know that the residents of Richmond County really wanted to have some strong leadership. But I felt at the time that, there was so many negative things happening and things that I just absolutely did not agree with. I didn't want to be a part of it, that it was time for me to step down and really question things that I didn't agree with. Bring things to light that I wanted to see brought to light, and I just do not regret that decision at all. I've never second-guessed that decision since the day that I stepped down.
If you are re-elected in District 5 and you were nominated for the warden's position again, would you take it?
That's a great question, and to be honest, I don't know. I think it would probably be very dependent on who else was around the table and what their interests were. The reason that I, put my name forward the last time, and I made sure that councillors were very aware that I have a very busy day job, and I don't know if I have the time to give the warden's position that it often requires and needs and deserves. But if the majority of them were okay with that, then that is something that I would be taking on, but I wasn't going to be offended if people thought that I didn't have the time or the necessary time to give the position what it needs. And there's a lot of great people who are running this time around, and there just could be so many different dynamics as far as who could potentially be put in there. I am still very busy with my day job. But there's probably a strong possibility that the people who get in are all working people through the day. And I think that that's something that, you just work out depending on who the successful candidates are. And, you try to make sure that the person that's going to be taking over the chair for certainly for the next 2 years is the person that really wants to be there and has the time to give it what it deserves and, really put an effort into trying to move the county forward.
Okay. I wanted to get back to District 5 if I could for just a moment. I'm wondering what local concerns you're hearing in your constituency. Of course, it takes in the northeastern part of the county, Lordways, Framboys, Forshoe. Johnstown, Red Islands, Loch Lomond. A number of these areas are struggling with cell service. We've seen recent announcements from the province and the federal government that more money and effort is going to be put into making sure cell service is shared across Nova Scotia. Yeah. Is that a concern that you're hearing on the doorstep or in your conversations through the campaign? And
yeah.
What are some of the other district issues you're hearing?
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. And I mean, I am proud to say that, we were able to increase cell service in Framboise and Forest Shoe with some infrastructure that was put up over the last couple of years. So I'm very pleased to be able to say that, and not to say that there's not still room for improvement, but there has been a dramatic increase in the amount of people who do have cell service down in those areas. There's still a lot of very remote areas within my district, and it covers a large portion of Richmond County. So there certainly is still room for improvement with regards to internet coverage and cell service. And hopefully we'll continue to move in that direction.
All right. Lastly, I want to ask you about who inspires you and who has been a bit of a role model for you as you sit in on municipal council. And I'm just wondering, would it be public servants that you've seen previously? Would it be someone in your family? Would it be a teacher you've known growing up? Basically, who inspires you and who motivates you, especially during the really tough nights when things get heated around the council table?
That's a little bit of a tough question because I was never somebody who, I never would have thought growing up that I would be somebody who was sitting around a council table. Okay. Politics for me was, every so often you hear that there's the Liberals that are running against the Tories, and so it's not really anything that I paid very close attention to. Obviously, with everything happening in Richmond County several years ago, it was just in the news so much that it was part of everyday conversation, and that's when I really started to pay much more close attention to it. I wouldn't really say that there's any sort of one person who motivated me or that I wanted to be like sitting around the council table as a politician. But certainly as a person, I hope that I certainly have many of the qualities of both of my parents. And being a teacher and growing up a teacher, they were both involved in education. And there's certainly some teachers who I had as a student and some coworkers that I also had in teaching it for my first few years that I really had a lot of respect for, just the way that they conducted themselves and the way that they, formed relationship with their students and their colleagues. And, I often think that, if I'm going to sort of emulate people, that comes through in what I do.
All right. We appreciate your time here today, and we've covered a lot of ground here in just a short time. Do you want to add anything else about all this or about the campaign just before we wrap up here?
I would like to say, and I kind of want to get back to, why I'm involved and the job that I want to do. And the job that I want to do is certainly represent the folks in District 5, and I hope that they're appreciative of my efforts. I hope that I've gained their trust and respect over the past 4 years. It certainly would be an honor for me to continue on and try to promote positive change within Richmond County. And I did take something here, Adam,
okay,
that I would like to just read a tiny little excerpt from the strategic plan that we developed for the county, right?
Sure.
And it's just a very small paragraph. It will take hard work, a shared desire to collaborate, and a number of new partnerships to achieve success, but it is within reach. As was frequently cited by numerous individuals taking part in the public sessions and online survey, one of Richmond County's biggest assets is its people. Ultimately, it will be the resourcefulness of this area's citizens that will fuel future growth and see this municipality reach its full potential. And I know that this hasn't been part of the conversation for probably the last couple of years, but I was very proud of the work that was done on the strategic plan. I was very proud of the end product that was done for work of the strategic plan. And when we were able to pull off the fact that we had community consultations from one end of the county to the other, and people had the opportunity to come out and say exactly what it is they wanted to to see the county get involved in. And that was all put together, which is a plan, a strategic plan for the county. It came from the citizens, and that's exactly the way that things should roll out. So the citizens had their input, and overwhelmingly the citizens wanted to see the county move towards economic development and tourism were the top two priorities. It speaks to an age-friendly plan in there. It speaks to zoning and just things that we all need, that the county really needs to work on and move towards. And I feel that when things started to really turn downhill, the strategic plan, and there were three councillors around the table who said that there was no room in Richmond County for tourism and economic development. So the strategic plan was developed, the strategic plan was approved. The strategic plan has tremendous things in there about who we are and what we need in this county, which came from its residents. And that's what municipal government should be all about. But we had a council that approved it, but didn't follow it, didn't abide by it, and there really doesn't seem to be much of a plan right now. So that is something, this is dated 2019 to 2024. I am extremely hopeful to be a part of a council that's going to resurrect the strategic plan, so to speak, so that it can be reflective of what people want and what they see as being what we need here for our residents in Richmond County.
And I know strategic planning was a key part of your platform when you ran in 2016, so it almost feels like we're coming full circle.
It certainly was.
With that statement
yes,
here right there.
Yes, it certainly was. Yep.
Right on. Jason MacLean, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for coming in and joining me on Telile 24/7 this week.
My pleasure, Adam. Great to see you again.
All right, good to see you too. Jason MacLean is the incumbent councillor running for re-election in District 5. He is facing off against new candidate Brent Sampson. Stay tuned for more Telile 24/7 in just a moment. And now we'd like you to hear the story of Michael George. Some of you might remember that he grew up in Janvrin's Island. After leaving Isle Madame, he went out west where he was able to contribute to several missions projects dealing with people on the street and people struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. While Michael George's life path led him into addiction himself, he is now clean and sober, and he is the president and CEO of an organization that's trying to help people with similar circumstances right here in the Strait area. It's called Fresh Start Peer Support, and it's based on Granville Street in Port Hawkesbury. I visited Fresh Start Peer Support a little earlier this week and got the chance to hear Michael George tell his own story. Let's go there now and hear what Michael has to say.
Growing up here, I have a twin brother. So there's 8 siblings in our family, and I had bad eyes as a young child in elementary, and so I never learned how to read and write, things like that. Moving out of here, going to Edmonton, everybody in my family got careers, and me, I had difficulties because I wasn't educated enough to get them things done. So anyway, I started working with missions or even on the streets. Probably in '84, and I did become an iron worker because all I had to do was learn how to climb, and I did that good. So for 35 years I was an iron worker, and so anyway, we always worked with missions. My family, we always had some sort of a ministry or missions going, and I still work across the country in certain missions as well, and so I became a single parent of 3, make a long story short. I also got involved in drugs when I was probably about 15 years ago, something like that. And my kids were in their teens, and I never ever tried drugs, but once I started it just took my life. When I went and I took that step, and I used that drug for the very first time, I lost everything. It just robbed me of life. Anybody can make that mistake, or down and depressed or something, and just try that, and my God, don't do it, right? And so I've lost everything. I ended up losing my career as an iron worker, or not allowed to work, and I ended up on the streets. I ended up overdosing 3 times. I still can't write today and spell. I read a little bit, So I learned about, the struggles, I guess, even on the streets, and always involved in the streets anyway, even before I ended up on the streets. I've had an awful time struggling through life. So depression, opioids, everything and all of the above. I'm a firm believer in the Lord. I read the Bible is where I learned how to read. And I'm not a religious man or belong to any church or carry any flags or protest anything. I just a simple fella from the field that believes in the Lord. And I know it's hard work to recover. I'm drug-free today, and I work hard on my recovery, and I work hard on staying drug-free, whether it's even a pill from a doctor. So I don't drink or smoke or anything like that, nothing. So I'm addictive free of anything. When I was on the streets and I went for even help, even now that my career's gone, what am I going to do now? Can I be trained? Can I be taught? All them questions would go through my head. I didn't know how I was even going to survive. I went through many doors and I got rejected in a way that I went through for literacy programs. I went to try and build something, so I'm diligent to try. And but my education is so low that I didn't even fit into the literacy program. So by 3 literacy programs I attempted, they end up pushing me out of the system there because it just wasn't going to work for me. The programs I couldn't find or couldn't get, right? We created here. There's lots of volunteers that worked on this place, and we bring the programs here that are fit in the communities, not just for Port Hawkesbury or around surrounding communities, but for the country. And once this here place is developed, it will fit anywhere in the country. It will be free of charge. There's no real talking about what your past was or finding out a whole bunch of information. You come in that door there and you start building where you want to start building. So first and foremost, I love peer support. I believe I could have used that 30 years ago, and I love that the Canadian government and the Nova Scotia is pushing and working hard with peer support for the people. Because, we can all develop on something that's in us. So we know what hurts us, we know what we can do to get out of what hurts us. And maybe with coaching and counseling of peer support, we can even go further and actually get some programs and change our lives. But if I see a tiny bit of light in somebody that wants hope or to get through something, that's what I look for in a person every time someone walks through that door. And if there's something there, or we'll look for something there to build off of. A program that we have here, it's new in Cape Breton area, is Smart Recovery, which is a recovery group program that people can come and talk about how their week went and what might be troubling them. I've heard it's not just about drugs or alcohol or gambling or sex or this or that, lots of stuff. So it's an open group where people can just talk and share, and it's a lot of fun. Love the program. It's been around, it's around the world. It's a great program. And so we have that here. And we also support NA because there's no meetings around, so there's 12-step. And then also we have a program called Change Matters, right? That's a program that actually we can even use in a workplace for people. That program there just helps you understand making a change and what to look for to help make them changes, right? So it's more of a target of knowing what is broke, and then maybe and then maybe working on taking that out and changing things around. And so that program is also another awesome program, right? And it's group too as well. It's like a classroom setting. This here place, it's built like a classroom, and we build our classroom according to each program each time they're scheduled. And then we also have anger management group as well, right? So anybody can, you don't have to be ordered by the court to go to anger management. You can come to anger management group here, and you can learn how to control or work with your anger and just work things out to make things better in your life, right? So we have that group here too as well, right? And then we're also working on the PTSD group, right? There's people working on that with us here. And that's going to be a great group too as well. So then we also have what they call Open Wings Youth Ministry, which allows the youth to come in here, use this place, to come in here and start building a group, you know. And youth ministry is strong. Again, there's no religions behind it or anything like that. But nevertheless, you know, firm believer in the Lord here. And the Word of God is very good for anybody's life. So the youth can bring their friends in and work with that too as well. Just make relationships up, right? We're designing a cafe next in the other room there. And we have a shower here, so in Port Hawkesbury and even the surrounding areas, right, there's no real place for anybody on the streets to go to a shower, you know, and they can knock on the door here and say, you know, hey, I'm in a tent. There's people here in tents, and so they want to have a shower, have a bite to eat. When this place started, I remember walking in the door. The owner of the building is really working hard with us too as well, right? And I remember him opening the door for us here, and this was just this side, you know, and we still needed a kitchen and things like that, but we open it up, and you know, and we have the same vision to help people, right? So there's a lot of strong and good hearts around this area. The volunteers that came in here, these walls were full of holes, the tiles were all painted, and the walls were all painted, and there's probably 20 people that come through this place and painted everything, cleaned everything up. There's guys that donated the floor from Dartmouth. There's a gentleman that come from Dartmouth and put in the floor, and the handicap bathroom, you know, and fixed it, and carpenters around here that changed the walls and things like that. And so there's a lot of work done, and even people that were here in trouble that came in and painted and worked on this place. We're all family here, right? And it's well appreciated, and people even from other provinces help. You know, the refrigerator was condemned here as far as I was concerned, and so we got a new refrigerator in, freezer, and all that kind of stuff. And we still need volunteers to build a shower here, and we have a shower, but it probably could be updated, right? So we still need volunteers to work on this place, but this couldn't be done without the people building it together. You know, I can maybe be part of it and do my volunteering too, just like anybody. The RCMP have been fully behind us. They've been here, and if somebody is stuck out there, and usually the RCMP, if somebody is really stuck, the RCMP will call and say, hey, can you open up, and or I want to bring somebody down here for peer support. You know, they do. And somebody or myself will come and open that door, day or night, and the RCMP might bring somebody here, and we'll sit down here and we'll automatically go into peer support, maybe a meal and a shower, whatever, right? And so that way we work together as a community. So all the services, we're with 211 as well, and you know, it's quite the development. People have been coming in, and people have been calling, and we have new people coming. Actually, I'd say 2 new people already this week, right? That walked by here, right? One that came in and yes, they're using the service. One is questioning, So, but so far, probably in and around close to 70 people has trickled through here in all types of problems, all types of, you name it, addictions and that. So we are wanting to always work with the justice system. There's people that are maybe getting out of jail or something. This is a family at street level, zero, at ground zero, right? Well, we're hoping to buy the building, right, or have the building anyway. Buy the building and develop some beds upstairs, right? Because right now the RCMP bring people by. And sometimes they need a place to stay, so they're doing a lot of couch surfing out there, and maybe in their car or whatever, and that. So we don't have a men's shelter here, right? I sit on a housing committee with the mayor here, right? Housing and work with community housing and things like that. So. There's a women's place here, right? Lee side, of course, and praise the God, praise the Lord for that. But there's nothing here for men, for one, and then also there's still Lee side's only so big. So working together, maybe we can have some sort of shelter around this place. Port Hawkesbury is like a hub. The buses leave here, they go to Sydney. They leave here, go the other way. The causeway's down the road. Everyone comes through Port Hawkesbury, Superstore, Walmart. So if you're thrown out of the house in Airshot, you're probably coming towards Port Hawkesbury, and so you're working your way through things. So we want to see the beds upstairs. We want to buy the building, right? We want to develop a community garden and. Even in the park behind us here, there's a park there, and maybe even work together that way, right? And creating something. And so anyway, with the beds, with this building, and then even getting a piece of land here from Port Hawkesbury or Richmond County, right? To also develop a bigger establishment for housing and beds for people that need it, because they do need it. You can look at, everything here seems to be kind of hidden. Maybe there's people that don't want to talk about it. But you know what? It's been a growing problem with mental health. It's been a growing problem with opioids addictions, and you need a door. Well, let's call it the circle of services out there, public health and mental health and community housing and even the mayor, bless her heart, she's been a great support. And then there's the justice system. I've talked to even POs and such and that. And so what I hear from all of the above out there is that they like to see it. They're starting to really see the vision of it, right? So I would like to see more of the services working with it. I really would. I really would want them to get a little bit more involved, right? And being part of this, right? And so that we can, because it's not just a building being opened. It's an actual people build again. So we're with the Chamber of Commerce and that we build relations there as well. I believe we could do more, or the people could do more on developing this, right? And I don't like to hold them to it, but I like to see people's heart, just themselves, to say, you know what, let's go and get involved. Let's do something, and even financially, right? Because we could do more. These chairs are borrowed. That's what they are. They're borrowed, right? We're short. That cafe there will sit 24 people, and then there's 6 benches under the counter. There's a counter there, like a diner counter, and we don't have them, right? So there's more room for that, and even I can't buy them myself, right? But there's more room for that, and then there's more work to be done volunteer-wise. There's shelving that needs to be put up and built, and even the wood got for it. Come and see what this place is about and get involved. It's a good build. It's a good build.
And that wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. Thank you for tuning in, and a big thank you to my guests this week, Jason MacLean, Curtis Doucet, and Michael George. And I'd really like to thank Nick Boudreau and Becky Borono right here at the Telile Studios in Arichat for helping me out with this week's episode. Don't forget, if you have any comments on what you've seen or you have suggestions for future stories or interviews for the show, there are many ways you can contact us. You can get in touch via email. My address is adamjrcook, cook with an E, @gmail.com. You can also call me directly at 902-625-8863, and you can reach Telile by calling 902-226-1928. Don't forget to follow Telile Community Television on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you go to Telile's YouTube channel, you'll find every single episode of Telile 24/7, including this one. And you can also see individual stories, interviews, and field reports from the show. And we've got a lot of great new content on the Telile YouTube channel, including individual profiles of the Richmond Municipal Council candidates, so you have a better idea on what selections you have when the vote comes up later this month. For now, I'm Adam Cooke. Thanks so much again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week with a brand new edition of Telile 24/7. We'll see you then.